Okay, we're here with Armond. We're going to talk about how to do all the decals on the side of a 70 Boss 302, the paint on the hood, and even the paint in the back, but that'll be a separate segment. So we're going to rip through this really quick here. How do you put on a stripe and the paint and all that on a Boss 302?
Okay, well, they do make a couple companies make templates that you can use. The ones that I've used in the past, I never really liked them all that well. So I cut them down to where they were loose, and then I, having known the measurements already from original hoods.
And I've got the measurements off this car, and this is original paint, or original stripe car.
Right. And so we won't even talk about the measurements, but nevertheless, I make little pencil marks where that tape template has to go. And if you go back here, you'll notice, sorry, you know, the distance here. And I can't remember the number here, but you'll want to pretty much base it on that back line there.
Yeah, I measured that.
And so anyway, from there to the edge of the hood, when you get that all figured out, it'll all just lay down and go in place.
Well, one thing, while you're up here, one thing I noticed is that this measurement from the hood is different than this measurement from the hood.
Yeah.
That just for some reason, that's how it is.
It's very slight, you know, but the template lays down, you know, they'll lay down pretty good, but you can't leave them. The way they send them to you, they're like all together. You want to take them up and trim it down so that the template's, you know, a big loose U-shape. That's the way I like to do it. But anyway, once you get that all laid out, you paint on your black, you get that all done, which unfortunately we can't show you here.
What kind of black paint?
TCP Global shows their hot rod Rally Black or hot rod black. I've used it. I've had great success with it. It gets textured. You know, you got to put it on dry and make it so it is textury, because the 70s were pretty textured. Originally they were done on lacquer. You could go lacquer if you want, but I wouldn't do it. Anyway, and then as far as the stripes go, you'll notice a lot of guys they've made it so that this stripe will be too short, and you'll actually see green or whatever the color of the car here, because they've made it so it's too far back. If you look at this, you'll notice that this stripe here has a wider gap here than it does here. This is more forward than people realize.
Yeah, it's actually not even with that. It's not parallel.
Right,
with
exactly.
the stripe.
Exactly, and I've looked at quite a few original cars, and that's the way they are. Anyways, I would put this what I call the hockey stick on and lined up here. I don't have the measurements on the top of my head, but you get them even on both sides. A lot of times I've seen it where this middle stripe will be painted, and it could be off an 1/8 inch to the left or to the right. But when you line it up, make sure it's exactly even. And then the hockey stick goes here, and then you can line up the top of the fender. Now at the top of the fender here, you'll notice on this car that there's about a 1/4 inch gap.
I've got measurements on it.
Between the top of that peak of that fender and where the decal stops, and then comes in and actually goes inside the fender. Okay, so I would get this all done first. Then I'd move to the side, and I would do the door first. The door, the stripe here lines up basically at the bottom of that line right there, that door. Okay, and so you line up the door decal first. Then I would go to the Boss 302 hockey stick, because you want to line up this here exactly even at this point. And if you do that up and down wise, you'll get your proper height here that should be. But you have to make sure as you're doing that you don't have it too far back or too far even. You can just stand back and visually look and tell, looking at it, if these line up with the top stripe. That's why I do this one first. So line that up, and then once that, you know, forward and back, and you've got to make it sure that when you use your water and a little bit of soap, or some people like to use, there's an actual material you can use for it, but when you do that, make it so you're moving it around, and it's not going to stick on you, because you'll ruin it. But anyway, I start there.
Basically, keep it really wet.
Keep it wet till you know you're satisfied with what you got. Yeah.
Okay. So then now, you know, so you got the door, you got the hockey. And now you're gonna go, what's next though?
This one here, if you look at this particular stripe, it actually looks a little bit farther than I normally see it. Because yeah, I can see it goes in pretty good here.
Yeah,
But
yeah, let me open that up. I want to take a look at Yeah, they wrapped it. Maybe they just wrapped it a little long further in.
Slightly, yeah. It seems a little bit short there from.
Pretty far out here too.
Yeah, normally, you know, they're a little bit farther to the end of the wheelhouse there.
Yeah.
But anyway, nevertheless, I would line this up evenly and straight, you know, because you'll be able to get a visual on it, make sure that it's straight and level. And then on the back, again, you can see this one's actually closer here. A little bit of the gap there.
Getting bad light here.
Yeah.
It's in the shadows. Let me see if I can get over here.
Then you can see right here where it actually is curved and it ends here about 3/8 of an inch.
Yeah.
From the end of
So
that.
you completely do this visually, this back one.
I do. Yeah.
Going off the front strap.
Going off the front, and when you look at from the side, you don't go by this body line, because this body line actually it goes down, deceiving. Right? It goes actually down into it here. Mm-hmm. And you'll see it right there.
Yeah, you can see it go right across there.
So as far as height, you know, just look at it and make sure it's, you know.
I did measure that right there.
You did? Okay.
From that opening.
Because you can tell it's just below the light.
Yeah.
Oh, there's my phone call.
All right, we're going to take a break.